Good morning, my love. Actually, it's not morning, it's afternoon. And I'm just now getting to do this because I needed to do a little bit of research before we got into this one. And so, I love New Orleans. You know, I love New Orleans. I love pralines. I love beignets. I love going to the restaurants there, eating oysters, drinking Sazerac. And if you really want to ever feel cool in a bar, Sazerac is bourbon, basically. And you just need to go and say, hey, I'd like a Sazerac, please. And they're always like, oh, are you from New Orleans? So that's kind of fun. I didn't realize that actually until just lately. Sazerac has an interestingly, maybe a little bit of a licorice taste at the end. I'm gonna have to, next time we go, which is going to be in April, I'm going to the Sazerac Museum, and I'm gonna check that out. And but anyway, we went to Taos, a couple of months ago, and I sat down at the bar and I saw it up there because not all bars carry it, and I said I'll take a Sazerac neat, and he said, oh, you're from New Orleans? No, I'm not from New Orleans. Just like it there, we go there a lot. So we went 4 times. We go once a quarter. This year I hope to go more times this year, but we're sort of doing a loop between Austin, San Antonio, and New Orleans, and branching out a little bit from there, just because the world is weird and we're old and just don't feel like, making it dangerous for us. Hang on. So, today I want to talk to you about Cajuns and Creoles. We are technically Cajuns, and that doesn't take over being a Texas because a Texan is premier. But our family came from Abbeville, over there, and New Iberia, and my grandfather, Warren William Jacobs, or William Warren Jacobs, he was from New Iberia, and he spoke Cajun French, so it was kind of interesting to listen to him. And then whenever he was at the end and dying, he only spoke Cajun French. So we kind of figured he was having some conversations with Cajun French angels, and so I kind of wanted to give you just a teeny weeny little history lesson today about this. And I grew up eating Cajun food. I grew up listening to Cajun music. I did not grow up with French speaking people because where we live, which of course, Orange, Port Arthur, we're just in the cusp of almost being in Louisiana. So there are a tremendous amount of Cajuns here, but the real Cajun heart would be Lake Charles, Lafayette, right in that sort of little dome right there. There's not to say that there's not Cajuns all over Louisiana. There are, because they move out of that spot. But they would be like me, probably could claim some Cajun heritage in their background with not being Cajun themselves, not being Cajun themselves. But anyway, I thought this might be fun because we just got off of Mardi Gras and everything is settled down, and I just thought I wanted to talk to you about this time. So my grandpa, Paw, on my daddy's side, he came from New Iberia, but there's 2 definitions here of classes. And there's a million cultures in Louisiana, but historically, 2 of them come out, and people want to know about the most. So, and the first one is Creole, and people don't always understand what Creole meant historically. And historically, Creoles were the firstborn children of everyone who came from where they were coming from: France, from Spain. I need to look down here. Yeah, France and Spain mostly, and during the colonial period. And so this was a long time ago. And they married to who knows who, and they had children. And those were historically called Creoles. Now, as we go down the line a little bit, and people began to intermarry, and I mean, I don't know the numbers on all that, but it began to sort of evolve, and has evolved and evolved until we come to the classification of a Creole today who might not be related to the original Creoles, but have, along historic lines, intermarried. Okay, so it may be white to Spanish, white to black, black to Spanish. It might be, I don't know what else to tell you, but it is a skin color now, which is a sort of really beautiful olive tone, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. Now, where we visited Natchitoches, Louisiana, they have a huge Creole community there, but those Creoles, they came from New Orleans, okay, because Creoles, that tends to be a thing for New Orleans, okay? Creoles tend to be a thing geographically for New Orleans. But in Natchitoches is a really cool little town, but just right outside of it. So those are a group of people who, as Creoles, moved to Natchitoches, maybe to farm, who knows what they were going there for, and then they began to intermarry with each other, and it just made this really tight little Creole community. And it's kind of cool when you hear their stories. They're all colors. They're some of the olives, they're white, they're black, they're everything. And it is an interesting, it's important to them. It's important to them. That's what I want to tell you. So let me tell you, but there's one more little rub here. So I'm going to read the definition. Okay, so you know. People born into Louisiana during the colonial period who spoke French, Spanish, or Creole languages and practiced Catholicism, regardless of their ethnicity. So, Creoles. Now, Creoles also, in modern day, tend to be termed as people from Louisiana, from Haiti, and Jamaica. How fab is that? I didn't have time to research that for you, but because I'm really kind of talking about our history, and we're not related to anybody from Haiti and Jamaica that I know of. So it's very, very, very interesting. Now, Cajuns, we're getting closer to our own history here. They were the descendants of French Acadians who were exiled from Canada by the British, and they're known for being kind of raucous. And here's something really sad about this whole deal. They didn't care who they put on the ship together. They put kids on ships, they put mothers on ships, they put dads on other ships, and they just sent them over. And some of those families never reunited. Some did, and some really looked long and hard after where they docked, trying to get back to their families. Some never did. There's a very beautiful story about a woman named Evangeline who always waited for her her love. And you know, back then he could have been 2 towns over and didn't know she survived, didn't know where she was, and but she waited for him. And there's a town called Evangeline, and it's a lovely little place. So that's kind of a sweet, sad Cajun history tale there, right there. But Cajuns are a subset of Creoles in scientific terms, but not all Creoles are Cajun. So you've got a mix there. You've got a little mix there. Of course, in Louisiana, you always got to have a mix. So I just wanted to kind of tell you again. You know what I noticed in these videos? I know I'm stopping. That I think I do this out of nervousness. I don't know. I don't know if I'll touch my nose, put my glasses up. Anyway, so I thought that was kind of interesting. Now, where they differ vastly also is in their cooking. Now, most of you know that Cajun is, anyway, it has been for us, largely seafood based and largely one pot, kind of really rustic meals. Think red beans and rice, gumbo, think jambalaya, those things like that. So it's a more country cooking. I'm going to tell you, it's country cooking. I have like 4 or 5 really good cookbooks, which I really never crack open, and they've got some great recipes in there. Now, the difference between Cajun and Creole cooking is Creole is more referred to city cooking or cooking that they would have done in the quarter. Now, whenever they sent these people over, say from France, because I've studied about France more than I've studied about Spain, these are people with some culture, and they wanted nice things, so they brought over with them their want for this cooking. So, but they also, both sets, Creoles and Cajuns, had to eat what was there, not what got sent to them. So when we went to Dooky Chase's, it's a premier Creole restaurant in New Orleans, in the Treme, which is the first black settlement. They had things like stewed chicken, which I wanted to get. Okay, I wanted to get stewed chicken. And Terry, I do believe, had, well, just watch the video today. Matter of fact, you need to go and look at this video on YouTube of Terry and our trip to New Orleans when we went to Dooky Chase's, because it's really good. You'll enjoy her energy. If you don't watch her, you should. But it was really, really a great trip. That trip was really great. She plans all the Disney trips we take, and I plan all the New Orleans trips we take. So anyway, back. So their gumbo might have in it sausages and chicken, whereas a favorite, of course, of Cajuns is to have crab and seafood. Now, not that Cajuns don't make dead to rights, bang on gumbo out of sausage and chicken. I prefer the seafood one, and but the I don't want to say that the Creole cooking was better, because it wasn't. It was just different. It was just different. But it had some really, really nice, like one of the things that I've really never ever seen much on a restaurant, if we go to a Cajun restaurant or anything, is it's going to give you some sort of potatoes with a sauce. Whereas the potatoes are still in there, maybe like a potato with a cream sauce. So I've never seen that on a Cajun recipe, although I know that they have them. So it's just kind of an interesting difference in the two. And I don't think, now the spices were blended really, really well in Creole cooking, but in Cajun cooking, that cayenne's gonna hit you. It's gonna hit you, and you all know what I'm talking about. But it's kind of a really kind of a cool little difference, of the two. One of the things about, I think, knowing your heritage and looking back into it, now when my kids were little, they're going to tell you I drug them through all kind of graveyards, and they were hopping all over those things. But we did some in Louisiana because we lived in Mississippi at the time, so I decided I would be able to look back on my history. And I need to look some of this up for you and put it together for you. But because right now we're leaning in our family toward a Caucasian Mexican mix for the most part, for a lot of the part anyway. My great grandchildren all Mexican, so I think and that's such a strong ancestry right there, that I want to make sure that we know all the ancestries. So it's been an interesting couple of years for me, diving back into this and looking at it and seeing the differences in them, and a lot of times just the darn similarity, the similarity in them. So I hate that it sometimes rolls down to race. because I've never had a problem with that myself, but others do, and I just think that's awful because you love who you love, right? You love who you love, and that's the deal right there. That's the deal right there. And I hate that certain races have been forced into slavery, either by people in America or people in Europe or people in Africa. That to me is very unfortunate. Thinking of Africa, though, I did want to tell you one more thing about Creole food. See, this is how my brain works. Um, Creole food also added in what they call port flavors, and it's not port the wine, but ports where all the ships would come in. Of course, New Orleans was always a port, and it anything like sweet potatoes came from Africa. Of course, other things came from Spain. Let's see here. Where did I put that? Did I put it on here? I thought I did. But West Indies, spices from the West Indies. So a lot of the food in New Orleans is going to have those spices in them, or Creole food is going to have those spices in them, and that's kind of a fun thing to also try to observe when we're there. Now, we go to a place called Cafe Degas, which is straight up French, and I adore Cafe Degas. I do, I really do. But any time that I can find us a good West Indies African kind of mix, we've gone to several, and their food is very different, and the spices are even different, and sometimes it depends a lot on like yams or sweet potatoes in the versions that we get to find, but they're excellent, and if you're able to do that, I suggest you get yourself a variance of food. Pretty much if you go out, if you're a cook, do it in your own home, but you're not always going to be able to find everything that you need. So one of the things that I did want to tell you about today, though, something that I hate, and that's curry. Ugh. It's too hot. I watch mainly British TV shows, and they have a lot of curries, all the time curries, and no, I've had curry several times, and I just do not like it. I can tell when I walk in a restaurant, I can smell it, and it's just kind of almost sometimes a little turn off. I try to work my way past it, but nope, I don't like curry. I don't like curry at all. One of my favorite things to do in New Orleans is to eat my way through pecan pies and bread puddings, which is a little harder now because I've lost so much weight and I don't want to gain so much weight. So as a general rule, whenever we go, we just order one, and the three of us will eat because Terry always goes with us. But it's been fun to do this. It's been fun to look back on it, and it's been really even more fun to be able to tell you about it. And I don't have a quote for you today because I had a real specific thing that I wanted to tell you. And I know that if somebody reads this, they're going to tell me that I'm all wrong, or listens to this, they're going to tell me that I'm all wrong. And I think it's just a matter of I wanted to be proper, so I took the definitions of Creole and Cajun out of a book called Frenchmen Desire Good Children, which is a really hilarious book. But I took their versions of Creole and Cajun out of that. Well, my loves, it's that time again. This is what Yaya wanted for you to know. I think that along with the theme of today, one of the things that you need to have in your box that Yaya tells you need to have is Tony Chachere's. And that's a little taste of home, a little taste of Louisiana that you could always have if you have some beans that are kind of plain and you just want to throw a little bit on there and kind of pick it up just a little bit. So remember, Tony Chachere's. You should be able to find it wherever you are. Well, I don't know about Austin, but I don't know. He may be way too far out there for that. But if you can't find it, tell me and I'll send you some. Love you guys. Bye.